alarms blare aboard the aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise. A squadron of pilots rushes for their F-4F Wildcats. The head of the group is a commanding presence. He shouts to the young aviators on the deck.
Get those birds in the air as quickly as you can. We're already late to the party.
The engines roar to life, and the aircraft launch off in a mad scramble to get into the air. At 10,000 feet, the pilots form up. In the lead, Lieutenant Stanley Vaitasa heads up the formation. They continue to rapidly gain altitude.
Set course heading 295. Enemy's 45 miles out.
They're closing in fast. Vaitasa's heart is pounding. They don't have enough time to reach the right altitude and distance. The defense is badly compromised before the battle has even begun. Below him, 21 ships dot the ocean. It's a massive American battle group that stretches far and wide, with 2 aircraft carriers as their flagships. Hundreds, if not thousands of lives depend on their performance.
They scrambled us too late. This is already FUBAR. They just dealt with 3 zeros and a dauntless. We got this.
Eyes on the horizon, gentlemen.
Vaitasa thinks back to just 5 months earlier, when he had been a dive bomber pilot against 3 zeros. After doing the impossible, he had earned himself a promotion and one hell of a reputation. But now, he is the leader of an 8-plane Wildcat squadron, known as the Grim Reapers.
Contacts, 2 o'clock, high.
In the distance, a group of VAL bombers emerges from between the clouds. Vaitasa quickly assesses the situation.
We're far too low. They're going over our heads. Climb at maximum speed.
The pilots activate emergency power, and the Wildcats roar into battle, pitching up, desperately trying to intercept the bombers in time. But it's no use. They're far too low.
Go straight for them. We don't have time to buy these valves a drink before we start dancing.
The VALs continue on their mission and dive into the attack, setting their sights on the USS Hornet. The sky becomes alight with anti-aircraft fire, columns of tracers pouring out of the carrier and arching for the incoming enemy. Vaitasa and his men are horrified as they see the explosions of multiple bombs detonating on the flight deck.
Damn it! We're too late!
Eyes burning, Vaitasa pounces on the dive bombers as they turn away for home. He sweeps in behind and pulls the trigger. The Wildcats' 6-wing machine guns shred the enemy aircraft apart and send it on an out-of-control tumble. A second wave of VALs comes flying in towards the carrier. Vaitasa turns to intercept, opening fire and taking a bomber out of the sky. The rest continue past and drop their payload. Bombs slam into the Hornet. The rest of the Wildcats engage the VALs and fire their guns. But despite their efforts, a lone VAL escapes. It dives down, aiming straight for the USS Hornet's island. Sailors on the Hornet watch as the dark shadow gets closer and closer. Gunners desperately fire at it, expecting it to drop its bomb.
It's coming in fast. It's going to ram.
The VAL slams into the USS Hornet. A catastrophic explosion rocks the carrier, setting fires all over the deck and taking out multiple sailors. Rear Admiral George D. Murray rushes to help the injured crew members.
Any of them are as brave as you. We can't lose.
Vaitasa sees the explosion on the Hornet. His eyes fill with horror as he looks at the destruction he's failed to prevent. But before he can do anything,
Incoming attack, 2:30, approaching Enterprise.
new targets. Vaitasa calls for his men.
Leave those that have already dropped bombs and regroup. There's more coming. We need to cover the Enterprise.
Yes, sir. Copy that.
They turn away from the Hornet and regroup. Vaitasa and his men climb, gaining lost altitude as they prepare for battle. Then, in the distance, 4 Aichi VAL dive bombers are spotted through the clouds.
Protect the ships at all costs.
Copy, flight leader.
Japanese pilots are rumbling along the sky when suddenly the 8 Wildcats punch out of the clouds straight ahead with Vatersa at the helm. He doesn't hesitate for 1 second and opens fire with his machine guns, piercing the fuel tank and bursting the plane into flames. The rest of the Japanese planes are thrown into disarray as Vatersa and his squadron race through their formation. Vatersa expertly puts his plane into a tight turn and sets his sights on another valve. The pilot seems completely oblivious as Vatersa lines up behind him and pulls the trigger. The machine guns burst to life, and bullets pepper the enemy until fire bursts from its wings, and it spirals out of control. The rest of the Vals immediately dive for safety with the rest of Vatersa's squadron hot on their heels. Vatersa searches the sky for another Val when his wingman, Lieutenant Leroy Tex Harris, suddenly sounds over the radio.
Hello? Torpedo bombers!
He turns under and dives into the attack. Vatersa follows, racing across the sky. Below, the formation of Kate bombers are completely unaware as the 2 defenders fall from the heavens. Tex and Vatersa approach at absolute maximum speed and pull the trigger. In a flash, streams of bullets crash down into the enemy. Vatersa's aim is impeccable and slices a Kate bomber out of the sky. The Japanese aircraft scatter. Tex and Vatersa split up as they chase after their prey. The Kates try to dive for an escape, but the Americans' speed advantage is insurmountable. Vatersa turns back around, sweeps in, and opens fire. The 50 caliber rounds cut through the enemy aircraft and set it alight. The rest of the Kates make their escape, scattered and in disarray. Aware that more attacks are on the way, he lets this group of enemies get away.
Any more threats spotted?
Only those in retreat. I'm giving chase.
Conserve ammunition. There's more inbound.
Copy that.
The lull in the fight serves Vatersa well. He uses the time to climb, regaining the energy he spent in the lightning attacks. Meanwhile, he sees his men performing their best, taking down what is left of the Kates and the Vals. And then, he spots exactly what he fears. A full formation of 8 B-5N Kate bombers, completely unbothered, heading straight for his squadron's aircraft carrier, the USS Enterprise.
Torpedo bombers! Formation of 8 headed for Enterprise. Intercept!
He pushes the throttle to maximum.
Let's dance.
Meanwhile, the flak of the Enterprise meets the Kates, black explosions materializing all around them, clouds of shrapnel tearing them to pieces. But Vatersa knows the flak won't be enough. He chases after the enemy, plunging into the air thick with Allied flak. The Kates spot him and immediately turn to evade, the 8 aircraft escaping in different directions. But he follows his selected target as the enemies rush to escape. In a desperate move, the Kate plunges into a cloud to break the line of sight, but Vatersa chases through, expertly predicting the enemy's move. And emerging out the other side, still on his tail, he opens fire and strikes the enemy on the wing. Flames erupt from the bomber. Vatersa turns away, leaving the doomed Kate to its fate. He searches for the rest of the torpedo bombers when finally his squadron returns. The American flight dominates the air, with Vatersa personally taking down 2 more in the turkey shoot, saving their ships. But then, just as he thinks it's over, Vatersa spots a lone Kate bomber. He checks his ammunition. It's low, but it may be enough. He flicks all his 6 guns back on. This Kate is going down. He gives chase, pulling up behind and below the enemy, away from its rear gunner. With the shot lined up in front of him, he pulls the trigger. Bullets pour out of the Wildcat like water out of a fire hose. The wall of lead converges right on the enemy, striking it with dozens of hits in the blink of an eye, and triggering a fire. But the enemy plane doesn't go down. Vatersa's heart sinks. His guns run dry. The Kate is still clearly under control, despite the flames engulfing the machine. The bomber turns towards the Enterprise, and Vatersa is filled with horror. He knows what he's going to do. He chases after the enemy, desperately searching for any way to change its course. Out of options, he decides to slice off its tail with his propeller. Vaitasa approaches ready to strike when suddenly the Kate turns upside down and dives straight down. Vaitasa sees the ball of flame as the Kate impacts straight into USS Smith. Completely out of ammunition, Vaitasa has no option but to bring his Wildcat to land. Thanks to the efforts of himself and his squadron, their home carrier, the USS Enterprise, is still largely unscathed. He touches down and watches the battle above. That would be the end of Vaitasa's fighting. He'd become an ace in a day, and his actions are believed to have saved the lives of many men.